In this video, we're going back to an antenna that I bought just over a year ago to see how it's done over the full year, and also something that happened to it just after the year ended. Stick around to the end for that one. But without further ado, let me begin by saying, hi, my name is John. Amateur radio call sign M7CPT. Welcome to Amateur Radio on the Air. Just over a year ago, I bought a Diamond WD-330S, the 10-meter version of the TTFD, tilted terminated folded dipole. And when I did so, nobody had been using it as a transmission antenna, which I thought was strange, that nobody knew it would work for the transmission side, even though everything said it should. So let's take a closer look and see what we actually got from the transmission and the reception. If you look at the instructions, it shows 3 recommended setups: either horizontal, sloping, or inverted V. Now, I do not know why it doesn't show vertical or inverted L, other than these may be a bit awkward for this antenna, but they may work, I don't know. As you can see from this recording that I made last year, I actually set mine up as a horizontal, very low to the ground, just at fence height, so 1 meter above the ground. This is because I live in a valley, and basically I need most of my signal to go up and out in order to get decent propagation. Now, the balun that is on it is actually a 16:1 balun, and the resistor was measured last year at 1080, I believe. One thing I did in the previous review, that I did last year, I modelled the antenna in ANA, and as I said, it had a 1080 resistor, and the actual gain showed up to be fairly average on the high bands, but on the low frequencies got to as low as -60 on the 160 meters, and I assumed it would be unusable at that. However, if you remember, this antenna has a very strange thing in the center where the resistor is placed down at the, actually clipped on to the balun. I wasn't entirely sure why this was done. I assumed it was down to the convenience of supporting the balun. Turns out there's a little bit more involved, so I redid the designing MMANA to copy this particular section, and it turns out there is capacitance between the two lines that does actually tremendously help this antenna. Now here you can see the two readings. These are the original ones with the wire just running straight across, down and back. With the bottom one, this is the one where the resistor is placed down where the balun is. Now on this bottom one, on the 160 meter band, you can see it shows up a rather high SWR. Now that SWR is completely wrong. I actually found that my SWR was around about 4, maybe 5, so I did need to tune it in. However, if you look at the gain on the 160 meter band, on the original I said it was a -60. With that resistor dropped down to the balun, it turns out to be 40. I'm assuming this is due to the capacitance between the two wires, but it does mean that the 160 band is usable but still very limited. These images were taken last year during the first 24 hours of use. First of all, showing the 15 meter band. I'm afraid 10 and 12 weren't actually open at the time, and it's fairly equal on transmission and receive. On the 17 meter band, again we see that good equality between the two. I did notice on some days at 17 meters and 20 meters I did have to turn the power down because my transmission was overpowering my reception. On this particular day, 20 meters again was fairly equal to everything else, reaching quite some distance. "30 meters also had a good distance, even across to the far side of America and back. 40 meters is where you first start to see restrictions, although I can hear almost as well. Well, I can hear better, slightly better than I can transmit, and reaching most of Europe. On the 80 meter band, my reception was still most of Europe, but my transmission had started to reduce, and at the time I didn't have the ability for the 160 meter band. 10 meters for me wasn't actually up that much this year, but it was up enough for me to reach Australia without too much of a problem, North America, and even South America, plus a few in South Africa as well. On 12 meters, again, wasn't up too much, but I reached Asiatic Russia and most of America, including South America. On 15 meters, we get the same again, and I actually reached Australia this time, and also Greenland. On 17 meters, as I said, this is the first band where my transmission, on quite a number of occasions, I actually had to turn it down because my reception wasn't as good as my transmission. But again, you can see I've actually reached the majority of the world, including Australia again. On 20 meters, we see pretty much the same picture, but again, the majority of my contacts are obviously focused around Europe and the east coast of America. "30 meters. This is where it starts to reduce, but not by much. I'm still getting Australia. I even got New Zealand on 30 meters. On 40 meters, reduces a little bit more, but I was still able to get Australia, which I found very surprising. "80 meters, we see it starting to reduce back quite some distance. Still getting a couple of contacts stateside and even South America. Now, here's the surprising one. 160 meters last year, I said, was, or I thought would be unusable. So although I didn't actually go on it that much, when I'd actually used up all the contacts on the other bands, I did actually drop down to the 160 meter band. Now, I wasn't getting outside of Europe. Let's just zoom in on Europe. Here you can see I was actually getting quite a number of countries around Europe, not just in England, but Germany and Italy seem to be the easiest contacts to get. But quite a considerable distance within Europe was actually achieved. Now, I did say I was going to show you that something happened to the antenna at the end of the year. Now, if you remember, at the beginning of the year, I placed it along the top of the fence, not in anyone's way, and quite discreet. On the 27th of December, one of my neighbours decided he was going to damage my antenna. He began by cutting the wires. And he also took the resistor and the ballon. Will I be replacing the antenna with another one? The answer is yes. However, before I do, I have to ensure that it will be safe. So I have to wait for the legal proceedings to go through and see what happens from there. In the meantime, the only option left to me is to go portable on occasions. So I have to work on the battery box and basically the full go box far quicker than I intended. So keep your eye out for more videos, and once the legal proceedings are out of the way, or I get out on a portable situation, I'll catch you on the air.